nature of the footprints, namely their remarkable consistency, their biomechanical appropriateness.
Spanning the entire globe, involving hundreds of different cultures, explaining the same phenomenon by different names. At some point, you have to go, even as a scientist, you have to say, well, there's got to be something. It can't all be math.
Welcome to Out of the Woods with the Bigfoot Influencers. My name's Tim. I am thrilled that you guys are joining us, and I'm thrilled for our guest today. We're going to have the one and only DJ from Calling All Beans podcast, or CAB as they call it. DJ and I met, not that long ago, but we connected through this. This is like a family, all of us who do these podcasts, and he's just good people. Him and the crew that he works with, they have an amazing show. And we're going to bring DJ on, and we're just going to talk about what they do on their podcast and share that with you. So as you guys are out there looking for content, looking for things to listen to, you'll have another place to go. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. If you want to follow us, you can go to thebigfootinfluencers.com. You can head over to Facebook at the Bigfoot Influencers. You can go to YouTube on the same name, Bigfoot Influencers. Or if you want to check out our weekly show on YouTube, it's on the Untold Radio Network, the weekly show that Dana and I do with the network there. So you can check us out there. Twitter's BF Influencers. And just, hey, check us out. Send us some love. Like and subscribe. Do all that fun stuff. If you like what you hear, give us a good rating. And we love to hear from you. We love the comments, and we love chatting with people. It's why we do this. We just enjoy people in general, and we enjoy you. So I'm going to stop talking so I can bring my friend DJ in.
Can I get an amen for Tim Halloran?
There he is, the one and only. DJ, how you doing, man?
Yeah. What's going on, brother?
Oh, man, I can't. I'm loving it. I'm loving life. I'm here talking to you. I can't get better.
Man, just promise me, Tim, we got to at least talk a little bit of Bigfoot during this 20, 30 minutes.
Man. This is your show today. So
we're
going to talk about what you want to talk about. So, there's going to be some questions, obviously.
Sure.
We're going to talk a little bit about you, how you got into this, maybe a little bit about who you are, where, and you've got a really cool background, and thank you for your service to the country. And we appreciate that and all of our other folks out there doing that and keeping us safe. So we thank you for that. Comes in all different forms, and that being in there.
Yes. Well, the family, it's what you talked about, man. We're all like one. And I think the reason that you and I connected so well from when you were in the chat is because we both see this as family and not as rivalry. And the people that see a rivalry end up hating each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm with you.
We're doing the opposite of what some of the old school Bigfoot researchers did.
Right, exactly.
Not that some of that may not go on here and there, but there's more collaboration going on. When I wrote the book, I learned that than people realize. So there's a lot of folks that are doing a lot of things together. So DJ, a little bit about your background. How'd you get into this, and what do you do?
So real simply, like it's funny that I went through this with Matt the other night, but I'm not interviewed all that often about me personally. But basically, I'm a kid from the Hudson Valley in New York, Hendrick Hudson High School graduate, college graduate. But I really connect with my home, and I had my first UFO sighting there, which I didn't talk about for about 40 years until Dave Fravor, the fighter pilot, came out and spoke about his, and then I said, So yeah, basically, what I told Matt was I was a kid that ostensibly went from special ed to special ops, special ed in middle school and high school. Figured out that I could do wrestling in high school, which then made me believe somehow that I could play college football, even though I'd never done either one of those things prior. And I did play college football and semi-pro football even. And then while I was in the Air Force, and that took me, I went into the Air Force, and I just had a lot of confidence as a result of my high school just being very supportive. So I went and got my pilot's license about 4 years after I joined. I was a maintainer on aircraft, so I was not an aviator yet. And then the opportunity came up to do this job called flight engineer, where you could sit in between the pilot and the co-pilot. And when I saw that, I, with my pilot's license, kind of helped my resume for that job, and I got it. So I spent the rest of my career flying, mostly tactical airlift, and mostly in special operations, infiltrating, exfiltrating, resupply and airdrop of special op forces. I flew AC-130 gunships a little bit, about a year. And even I'm sort of just retired Air Force now, but I've been with AFSOC, even up to until this year. So a lot of time doing that and studying aviation and flight simulation. My most recent gig, working with flight simulators.
And for the audience, probably many things that he'll never be able to tell us about that he did.
Yeah, and nothing that would excite you guys, because if it doesn't have to do with UFOs or knowledge that the Department of Interior may or may not have about Bigfoot, I mean, it's not all that awesome. So, it's really not about me, but it is interesting. You mentioned the diverse group, and even you look at CAB, we have Nathan, who has a master's in divinity. We have Deb, who's a mental health professional, counselor. We have Leah, who's a library science major and is an absolute book fanatic. We have Frank, who is a professional drummer, and then we have Matt, the brilliant Bigfoot researcher and sort of all-around intellect. Matt is just one of those very worldly, very thoughtful individuals. And that, if you look at just that kind of, you and Dana, and then, Cliff was a teacher. We have law enforcement professionals that are working as Bigfoot, should I say researchers or investigators. So we span the gamut, and to me that's a beautiful thing. So anyway, just the podcast portion real quick is that I was in MMA podcasting for a long time, since about 2010 or 2009. And then again, with that Dave Fravor incident, I ended up reconnecting with the young man who was with me for the UFO sighting, who's now he's now my age, in his 50s. And we spoke and compared notes. And I said, you know what? I'm changing my I don't care about broadcasting about the UFC anymore. I want to broadcast about UFOs. And my partners did not go along with me, my podcast partners. So I went alone. And I got some pretty high profile guests to come on right away. And one of them, for a show that had, no listeners. And one of them came on, and I had a caller. All of a sudden, here's a caller, wants to call in and talk to this great guest name. His name is Andy McGrillen of That UFO Podcast. He's a brilliant interviewer and content creator. So this guy calls in, and I'm kind of looking at the screen and going, man, this guy's amazing what he's saying. This guy that's asking questions of Andy.
Right.
It turned out to be Nathan. So, so I said, hey, your name, Nathan, sir, I'm going to DM you after the show. I feel like you and I need to talk. And then it wasn't long thereafter. He was just an avatar. He didn't show his face at the time.
Right.
And Calling All Beings was born.
So yeah, so for the audience, Calling All Beings is the name of beings. I said that wrong. It sounded like beans, but I said
we all
beings.
do that. We all do it.
But when you hear DJ say CAB, that's what he means. So when we talk about that,
yeah.
So that's awesome. You have such a great crew there, and we had so much fun. And now I understand, if you had that MMA podcast background, that's the intro. I mean, you come in like a train, which is awesome. The energy, and that's probably why, right?
Yeah, we've sort of just figured out that it's just kind of an expression of my personality, that which I can't use in a military setting or in a professional working for the DOD or anything like that. But it comes out in the podcast, because then I can really, express the parts of my personality that I can't during the workday. So yeah, it's man, it's become we have these certain little formulas. We have this really raucous intro, and we want the guest to. So you see, it says co-conspirator on my tag there, and it means co-conspirator in welcoming, fun, entertaining, and interesting talk about the phenomenon, which includes now UFOs, Bigfoot, and paranormal, or as Matt says, the unexplained.
When we finished our episode with you, right when we left, Dana said, "Wow, that was so fun." I mean, we just had a blast, and it was informative. And with your panel, it was just great. Yeah, we just have. So we're going to get into how folks can follow you, here in a little while. So high level or not, if I'm tuning into your show for the first time, what's the concept? What can we expect from your show?
Well, that it was basically the aforementioned. First of all, the guest is going to feel, and you guys do the same. You guys do the same thing that we do. Is basically we want the guest to feel really, really welcome when they come. We want them to feel how important and how much we appreciate that they're there. And again, this is something you two also do. So that's what the intro's about and all that. And then everybody will say hello and introduce themselves. And then so we want them to feel like, so as soon as I start belting out this thing, they go, oh, wait, this is going to be different than other shows that I'm on. And so that's part of it. So we put them in a place where they're kind of like, wow, this, so we do that. And then we welcome them in, and then they're going to get, we want it to be positive. So you'll never hear us talk about negatively about a content creator that we don't like, or somebody who's bringing negativity into the community, or someone's research methods. In this case of Bigfoot, you'll hear on shows where people will decry someone else's research methods. You don't need to do that. You can just talk about your research methods, about how you do it, not how, well, these, a lot of people do X. Well, you don't have to talk about a lot of people. Just talk about what you do, and let that be what you're trying to inform the audience on, rather than having them maybe take a negative view of another person. So you won't hear that stuff. So it's positive, it's welcoming, and we do like an electrical sine wave, alternating current, right? There's a little bit of a sine wave there. So we want it, we may say something funny and have a quip or ask them about their favorite potato chips. And then we're going to get into this serious talk where the tone is serious. And then a little while later, a couple questions later, we may go up and say something to make them giggle a little bit again. And we'll kind of go on that sine wave until we get to the end of the show. And then you hear, when we do cabbie goodbyes, everybody says goodbye to the guest individually and says what they feel how they want to thank that guest for coming on, culminating with me and then the closing.
So speaking of potato chips, I forgot to tell you.
Oh.
So DG and I had a conversation about potato chips. I'm not a Ripple guy. I mean, I'll eat Ripple, but that's not my preference. Is the normal ones. So
okay,
put that in your database.
Okay, so we need to. All right, we'll have to. Let me get this. I've already told the cabbies about Old Bay. So,
yeah.
Which I've never heard of. So is this a Maryland thing?
So Old Bay is a seasoning that was originated in the Baltimore area on the Chesapeake Bay, and it's crab seasoning. So
I know what Old Bay is, but I haven't seen Old Bay chips. Yep, like Nathan knew about it.
Yep. Yeah. There's there's one of the local, I think out of Pennsylvania, and there might be a couple other ones. They have their own. They have Old Bay.
So it's not Old Bay flavor chips. It is Old Bay potato chips. Like they produce it.
No, I think it's potato chips with the seasoning on top of it. Already kind of baked in, I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
it's cool.
Okay.
Man. You're gonna have to get some.
Is this something you can buy in a bag, or is this something you get at a restaurant?
You can buy in a bag. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if
I'm intrigued.
Maybe down, up some of the seafood places you might find it, and we put it on French fries, and I put it on everything. So when you get down to, up to this part of the world, and you get near the beach, you can get those big fancy, not fancy, but the big beach fries that come in a big bucket, and they're messy, and you can just pour your Old Bay, or sometimes if it's not Old Bay brand, they'll have their own seafood seasoning brand, but they're trying to make it taste like Old Bay. So, yeah, man.
I've just been culturally enriched, Tim, because now I am going to try Old Bay on the French fries at home, and I want to experience that, and I will report back to you post taste.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's awesome. Awesome. So DJ, you mentioned that, you had a sighting because your podcast covers a lot of strange things, as you mentioned before. So you had a sighting when you're younger. Then later on you connected with someone. And so eventually that's what inspired you to move away from the MMA and just push you into doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, basically, I come from the military aviator background, although I don't place myself as a pilot. I'm kind of like a Pop Warner player compared to David Fravor, who would be like Tom Brady, or in your case, maybe Lamar Jackson. So when he came out and, he went on Joe Rogan, obviously they built that 2017 New York Times article that broke the UFO topic open with the help of Christopher Mellon, who gave them those videos, and Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLonge. The reason that the UFO topic is in this space right now and the Bigfoot topic is not is simply because the Bigfoot topic does not have a Christopher Mellon, a Lou Elizondo, or a David Fravor, or any of those 3 or 4 naval aviators that came out, went on 60 Minutes, for example. Right. That's the delta, if you will, between these two topics, is the lack of one over the other. So when that happened, I said, well, I want to start talking about it. And I actually did, on the MMA show, have my the gentleman that was with me named Kenny, he came on, we recounted the event and talked about it. And then right after that, I got home from this trip and I said to my co-host, I said, I'm going to start doing UFOs. And they were just like, okay, yeah, we're not going to do that. And I said, all right, brother. And I still talk to these guys. We have a private chat all the time, but they just didn't want to do it. So,
hey, you know what? What we do things we're passionate about, and they don't have to be passionate about UFOs. It's fine.
Right.
But they're obviously, you guys are passionate about MMA. You did that, and that's totally fine. And that's what makes this fun, is we get to talk about things that we like and enjoy.
All of us had grappled together. So I had grappled with both these guys in jiu-jitsu in different states, actually. One of them I grappled with in Ohio. The other one I grappled with in California. And they're both Asian guys, and they made that connection. One's Chinese, one's Japanese. And so we had a really good MMA show. It was good.
Oh, cool.
But so that was our connection, but they just, they didn't have the passion about this topic. And I want to say this for the audience. I want to make this clear. I am as passionate about Bigfoot and of now really I'm getting into paranormal, and that's coming up as a third. But if I had to say there's a 1 and 1A, Bigfoot and UFOs, I have an equal passion for, and I'm really wanting to get more into paranormal and try to understand that phenomenon. And that was a decision that came about quite recently in Cab.
Well, you got Matt Knapp on the show, so so between Matt, I'm sure he can pull in a ton of people. And of course, if you ever need us, I can, as I mentioned before, we can do tons of intros, get some folks on your show, because they love it.
You did. Yeah, I still got to work on those guys from the conference, but I thank you for getting that, greasing the skids, as we say.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, you know what? It's pay it forward. I want to touch on one thing. You mentioned, how diverse the communities are, and community's community. And I think why it's diverse is, sometimes people just get interested in it for whatever reason. They could be watching TV with their mom and dad, or when they're kids, or whatever it is. But, some people have sightings. I've never had, that I know of. Who knows? I may have had a sighting. It's locked back in the back of my head. But it'll come out one day.
Blocking it out, man.
Hey, one day I did see lights coming through my window of my bedroom. Mm-hmm. Then I looked out and realized it was police officers chasing some guy. True story. I can't lie about that. I thought it was a UFO. I ran out to my window.
Dude, ET's here, man. Yeah.
I was freaked out for a minute. But you know what happens? they're not, they're not selective on who sees them. I mean, some people may believe that, some people have more, but you could come from any background and
Yes.
you could have a UFO sighting. So I think that's what's
Yes.
really cool. That's why it brings these people together. There's a commonality of you know, hey, they don't care. It doesn't matter what your background is. You might see one of these things or have an experience. So that's pretty good. So, can you share what you've learned about yourself since you moved over from doing, the MMA to, to the unknown podcast? We'll call it the unknown or the unexplained,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I love that unexplained business. It does sort of fit a lot of our it sort of encapsulates a lot of these three genres that we like. I think I've learned about not only the diversity of people, but the types of personalities and the sensitivity. You have to raise your level. I've had to raise my level of sensitivity and be understanding of people that come from different backgrounds and are more sensitive to certain types of trauma and triggering and different reactions to these things. And that's been really good because, as you know, obviously, a lot of people that can come from a military background or a law enforcement background, you need to dull those senses sometimes, particularly in a combat zone where there's not as much time for touchy-feeliness, and sometimes less than what you would like, because sometimes it is necessary even in a combat zone, but it may not be present. And so interacting with all these different people has made me understand that you need to be aware of that, be sensitive to that, and be available for that. And that's helpful. So it's broadened my personality out, I think, a lot. And I really like that. It's made me a better, opened my aperture a little bit, and made me a better person in ways.
right on. Excellent, excellent. Is there I know there's probably many. Is there a person that you interviewed that that moved you? Can you share one of those experience, like a moving interview?
I should have predicted this question would be asked. There's been quite a few.
Excluding ours. I know when we were on the show
Yeah.
that,
So yeah, of
that
course I know. I think Matt asked me the same. He asked me something like that. No, there's been so many. If I had to point out one that just pops into my head, because I would really have to dive and deep into this. But I remember when Richard Doty, and those of you who have seen a movie, Richard Doty, if you've never heard of him, or Rick Doty, was an Air Force OSI agent at Kirtland Air Force Base during the 80s when there was UFO sightings reported by a contractor who worked on the base and lived just outside the base. So his property had view of the base, and he started to collect signals because he thought they were UFOs. And the OSI sent him out there. He's in a movie. He's profiled in a movie called Mirage Men.
Okay.
And very nice guy. And he was painted as this villainous person because basically the Air Force said, go and tell this guy that what he's seeing is UFOs. When actually what they were doing was sending up certain light patterns and laser lights to blind Russian satellites that were flying over, trying to visually acquire with sensors what was on the base. And they said, tell this guy that they're UFOs, develop a relationship with him, make sure he doesn't do anything crazy or whatever. Whatever his orders were basically to lie to the guy, essentially. And that's kind of what you do. I mean, the OSI is basically like the FBI of the Air Force.
Wow.
So when you're told, you will go and do this, you will. And the guy ended up really going crazy. I mean, he really got into UFOs. I want to say the NSA or another 3-letter agency, I think it was the NSA, started to surveil him. Rick Doty ended up having a standoff with the NSA over whose target this was. And he's like, this is my investigation. We've been on this. You guys don't have OPCON here. And those guys are like, no, we've been directed to come here and surveil this guy who's collecting signals. And it turned into like a thing. So he had dinner with this guy, and he's like, Paul, you guys got to stop. You got to stop doing this. Stop collecting signals. People have their eyes on you that you don't want. And
Wow.
he ended up killing himself.
Oh,
And a lot of people in the community blame Rick Doty for that. And he started to talk about how bad he felt about that. He's not responsible for this guy doing that. His family knows that. His family never even filed a civil grievance against Rick Doty or anything. But he felt that he wanted to say a mea culpa on our first of 2 interviews with him, and that was fairly moving.
I bet. And that's the reverse. Seems like the reverse role, because typically, you would think the government would say, no, those are military lights. Those aren't UFOs. And they flipped it on them. Yeah.
Yes, because they wanted to protect what they were doing. And Rick has come out and said he was read into the program. He got to see videos of actual UFOs and actual beings that we had captured back in the 40s. I think it was a being, at least one.
On the Hudson River.
No, not there. I mean, no, this was like, you're talking Roswell now.
Yeah, I know.
But,
I know. I was just, yeah.
Yeah, but Rick Doty told us, and he's told other shows, that he was read into this program and has seen bodies, has seen the whole 9 yards. So a lot of people villainize him, and we found him to be very forthcoming with us.
Wow, that's cool. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
So one other thing I want to say real quick. If you get a guy like that on, a guy who's done like counter intel, work with OSI, he's actually a former combat controller as an enlisted man. He was an educator in college and then came back into OSI. You have to know that when that guy comes on, you are not going to extract anything out of that guy that he's not going to want to give you. He knows how to question you. He's not worried about how you're going to try to be the Mike Wallace with him, right? So all we did was have fun, make him comfortable, joke around with him, and he just started telling us stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because there's some people here, in the Bigfoot world that have background and experience in investigating and understanding the human, the body language and things like that. And like Steve Coles is someone I think of. And I've talked to them, and I'm always worried, are they profiling me while I'm talking to them? Okay.
Sure. Anyone who's a detective, anyone who's been in the FBI, any of these types of guys. And basically, as I said, the OSI is the FBI of the Air Force. So if your intention is, I'm going to get this guy on and grill him, you're not going to.
Right.
Definitely. So you may as well just make him feel comfortable. Be real with him. Be true. Just be honest with yourself. And then if he likes you, he might tell you something. And he gave us way more than what we expected.
Super cool. Yeah. So DJ, I want you to tell the audience how they can find the show. Of course, I'll have links and things like this, on the bottom of this, but how do we find you guys?
Okay. So one of the different things about Bigfoot and UFOs, and again, we are all three. We are not one nor the other. Thanks to Nathan. He's the one who introduced me to the Bigfoot world. And now I'm several miles deep in it and just love it. And have studied all the folks that you have in the book and so forth. So at Calling Beings on Twitter, all one word, at Calling Beings is how you would find us. We are not on Facebook. Nathan's the producer of the show. I'm the content. I'm the director of content. And he's the executive producer, so he doesn't want it on Facebook, so it's not there. But you can find us on YouTube, Calling All Beings. If you put that in and then click on the live tab, all the videos are on the live tab, including Tim and Dana, the Bigfoot influencers. You can also on almost all of a whole bunch of your podcast platforms, specifically the main ones, Amazon, Google, Spotify, Apple, all those plus others, we're on there.
And so all of your episodes are live, correct? I mean,
all of our episodes are live
every week. And so what day of the week, just so the audience knows, and what time and
so there isn't necessarily a day. We base it on the guest and when the guest can do it, and that opens up your opportunities. Because if I say it's going to be this day and this time, and that person can't do it at that time, well, I might miss out.
It's a
So,
big challenge. That's why we've done a couple live episodes, but we probably should do more, but we made a decision, yes, just for that reason. But I love doing live. It's just tough to get out everything coordinated at the same time of the week. So
well, when we do the holiday episodes, like when we do the summer party, which you guys are going to be on, and everybody comes on for 5 or 10 minutes at a pop, and we have like 25 people, you could imagine, I mean, that, or even when I do a round table and I've got, 6 guests on the round table, aligning those schedules can be, and one of the other things I want to mention that we do that I really like is, and we kind of did this with you and Dana, I think to a degree, is the fireside chat. And with that, we'll spend about 20 minutes interviewing the guest, or maybe a little more. It might be 30 if need be. And then we'll start going into everybody who comes on the round table brings a topic. And you present that topic to the group, and it goes in a circle, and everybody gets to give their take on your thought-provoking topic. So instead of getting just question, answer, we will ask the guest, task them with bringing a topic that they want us to consider and postulate about. So,
yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that part of it too. Of course, I forgot to tell Dana that we were doing that, and but she rolled with it. She figured it out.
She did, man. She's a gamer, man. She's a gamer.
So, yeah, man. So DJ, my friend, you're amazing. We love the
Thank
show.
you, brother.
I'm
You
just
too.
going to suggest to everyone, go check them out. You won't regret it. They're a lot of fun and fascinating people that they get on the show. And I got to catch up. There's some episodes I haven't got to yet, so I'm going to go back and watch some. So what we're going to do is I'm not even going to do you're going to be part of. I'm going to outro here for the audience, and we're just going to let it roll. And I thank you again,
question.
DJ. Yeah,
I got one question for Dana, though. I want you to ask her for me.
All right.
From the last episode, okay? Ask Dana, what is it about, again, is that first question, what is it about Bigfoot that has drawn her in? What is it about this creature that intrigues her?
Okay, I'll ask her that. Yeah, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask her because because I know when she started, and I know, but something about that. Yeah. Okay.
There's something about this. So because what she jumped like one step ahead, but if and Matt and I spoke about this, and I could ask you the same question. What is it about this creature that so intrigues you that you've wanted to dive into its existence?
Are you asking me now, or are you?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Let's do it, man.
So who's interviewing who here? DJ.
Come on, man.
I think for me, she pulled me into the subject. I mean, I was never not in the subject because I've watched UFO things, and I'm never been a big ghost person. I mean, even though I'll kind of dabble in there, but that's never been my thing. But so I was kind of in the subject, but I think what I'll say is I think because it's something that we think that's tangible, that there's actually a living, thing out there in the woods on our soil that we can go find. Where if it's a UAP or UFO, it could be anywhere, and maybe it's not here, in this, in this earthly realm we're in. So I think that's probably what gets me into it, is that it's here. It could be right here in my backyard.
That's
even though
interesting.
Other things can't. But
also, I was reminded of this listening to your network, the Untold Radio Network, where you can all find Bigfoot influencers. I was listening to that interview with Sibylla Irwin, and one of her experiences kind of encapsulated a hypothesis I have, is that the modicum and the specter, that there is one level or another of humanity that resides within this creature, that was exemplified by her saying, it started trudging around my camper, it was picking up my stuff and putting it down and opening things, and maybe slapped the side of her camper. And she went outside and she said, so she went outside and spoke to the forest, as many Bigfooters have done, and said, this is my home, and you coming and hitting the side of my home She said, I'm just here to learn about you, and you coming and hitting the side of my home is scaring me. Could you please stop? She said it never happened again during that 4-month camp out in the woods. So if you look at that and the fact of whether people believe this is 100% nothing more than an ape, but somehow they know if it can do something like that, there's got to be some little speck of humanity, however large or small you want to believe that is, you believe it. You believe that that's there, and that's why you're interested. Because if this is just a Kodiak bear, it doesn't give a damn if Sibylla comes out of her.
Yeah, and in the big picture, if these hairy hominids, if they are hominids, if they're hominids or if they're apes, I mean, we're apes.
Mm-hmm, right.
So if it's somewhere in between, so there could be a different type, but they could be at a different level of a gorilla, versus where we are, so it's interesting. Hopefully we'll know soon, but that some of the mystery will be solved hopefully soon, with a lot of different phenomenons with Bigfoot
and with Bigfoot, even if it's not, that's okay, because a little mystery in life is good, and the most important thing is that these things are allowed to procreate and survive and thrive to the degree that they're able to. I think is the most important thing for it, because to lose a species like that to any one of the maladies created by humanity, as us, that would be tragic, because they are so mysterious. But I'll be interested to hear what Dana says whenever you ask her. Just text me.
I'll certainly do that. So
thank you, brother.
DJ, my friend, you're amazing.
You are.
And the audience, we love you guys too. And make sure you check out Calling All Beings. You can find it. You can find it everywhere. So podcast and YouTube. And until the next episode, we'll chat with you guys soon.
Bye.